This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we'll call to order the Monterey Select Board on March 31st at 6:03 PM. Susan and Justin are present here in Town Hall. Frank is absent for this week's meeting. We're expecting back for next week. I suppose. The Finance Committee is also here. Roger Tryon and Steve Pullen are in person, and Jeff Zimmerman's online. Hi, Jeff. Can you hear us?
I can. Hope you can hear me too.
Yes, we can. Thank you. First order of business is our budget meeting. We're getting close to nailing down a final budget. There's a couple of items left to discuss, and the first on the agenda for tonight is the Renewable Energy Working Group. Continued funding. Peter, do you want to sit up here and talk to us if that works? So Peter Marquette chairs the Renewable Energy Working Group for the last several years since its inception, and is also the founder. And we funded Renewable Energy Working Group consultants through ARPA and then a meta grant. And now we're considering where we're gonna take a review of where we're at and where we're headed.
It's very hard for me to tell what amount we might spend in the coming year. We have, historically with those two grants, spent about $15,000 in a calendar year or a budget year. I'm quite certain it's likely to be less than that this time around, largely because the completion of this municipal array on the closed landfill is questionable at this point. I just learned today that the developer has a meeting with National Grid next week. So when we meet on the 8th, a week from tomorrow night, we may have further information about the progress of that project, which now is in tandem kind of with a larger project in Gould Farm. Everything's interrelated. The conversation with National Grid is very important. There has to be an understanding between National Grid and the developer about who pays for what and all kinds of things to do with setting it up.
And also how much power they're willing to accept into the grid, is that correct? I thought I
Well,
remembered something about that.
That's the limitation that we have learned exists on any large scale solar array in the rising substation distribution network. They're near saturated with solar development, and they can't accommodate, they can't distribute anymore. It's a problem. So for HESP to be able to develop at Gould Farm and even on the landfill, on the closed landfill, involves the developer participating in a pilot program to basically test some innovative technology that will allow the grid to limit the amount of power that the developer can feed into the grid under certain circumstances. So the developer has to be prepared not to be allowed to capitalize to the degree that he might otherwise on his installation, on their installation.
I mean, it's the irony that we're increasing the demand for electric with all these electric vehicles and electric appliances and trying to pushing people to have electric stoves. At the same time, we're at a limit of the capacity of the grid to carry the energy we're trying to produce.
We're dealing with a generations old infrastructure that has to have wholesale change, and it's going to be complicated and messy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that our green community application is proceeding, and the designated inspector, for lack of a better term, will be in town early in May to visit all the municipal buildings and assess their energy use, because the terms of the green community designation are that we have in place a 5-year, 20% energy reduction plan. So all municipal buildings have to be, evaluated for their energy use. And this includes fuel for building heat, fuel for town vehicles, electricity use for municipal buildings.
So we're not allowed to put in an installation that would produce energy, but we have to reduce it. Sorry, it's the whole.
There may be a change in the Department of Energy Resources commitment to allowing green community designation funds to be used for cleaner energy, not necessarily energy reduction. Maybe a combination of the two.
Yep.
One of the longstanding frustrations in the group is that what we consider an obvious place for solar development, which is the roof of the firehouse and or the roof of the pavilion.
Or the highway.
Well, the highway garage is part of the municipal landfill project. There's also going to be.
So the hook
an
tails
array
on that roof?
on the roof of the town shed.
Okay.
Could that be done even if the other didn't go through?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Maybe
I doubt it.
depends who's paying for it.
I doubt it,
Okay.
because one of the issues at that location is it needs about half a mile of new three-phase power to be run from Route 23 at a cost of $500,000 a mile. So,
Right, but the highway shed itself, they consume enough electricity over the storage and batteries where that would not be a problem for their use. If they had electric vehicles,
Separate from
what you're doing, but they could have batteries and use solar on their roof over there, and that would fit in good with a plan.
it could, if the other plan goes forward, that would all kind of work together.
I just wanted to see if there was a backup. If that didn't go through, is there anything we can do?
One of the reasons I focused early on, or the group focused early on the firehouse, is because it's right next to three-phase power. So you save $500,000 right there. And, dozens of houses in Monterey have panels on the roof. Panels on the roof of the firehouse has always seemed to me like a straightforward
The
proposition.
firehouse or the pavilion?
Well, either one or both, as
Well,
far as I'm concerned.
I know, it's just the pavilion, I think one of the concerns was also the age of the building and the state of the roof and.
The
age
state
how
of the
long
roof in
panels-
terms of the steel leaking, not in terms of the framework.
Mhm.
So, and we learned early on that there is a treatment for steel roofs that will add 15 years to the life of the roof, which is basically the likely life of a solar array until the next new thing comes along.
Right.
So part of, an idea that I had was that if there's always been resistance in the fire company to that idea. I talked about it with them for 3 years, and they're not gonna pick up the ball and run with it. That much is clear. They have a lot of hesitation about solar panels on roofs, and probably even more about storage batteries from the fire safety point of view. My perspective on that is, okay, it's a problem. Get in on the ground floor, get the safest batteries and the safest panels you can, and, you know, be first-person observers of how they behave and how you can protect against the eventuality of an accidental fire. So my latest thought was, well, if we gather all the information and say, for this amount of money, you can have panels on the roof that will generate this amount of electricity, which you can store in batteries for emergency use. You can upgrade your oil burning furnace to be an electric boiler. And this is the way you could do it. Present them with a plan. And now that Green Communities is moving forward, the application is moving forward, my plan might be to make that a part of the 5-year 20% energy reduction, clean energy upgrade, or, you know, action that we would take with DOER funds. So from the point of view of budget, this is a project that may take shape over the next months that would not entail a significant cost that I can foresee. It's not like trying to figure out how to get Gould Farm and the closed landfill up and running. That's a very complicated undertaking. This might be straightforward and simple, and maybe my most recent conversation with Sean, where I said that if has seemed to some recently a potential shift in ownership of the firehouse from the fire company to the town, that should take place. Maybe that would be an entry to some kind of solar plan for the firehouse project. He said he didn't think anytime soon that change in ownership was going to happen. And he didn't think that the membership would be enthusiastic about solar on the firehouse. But my approach at this point is to hand it to them on a platter as much as we can and say, why not? Let's do this.
I love this idea. I'm completely supportive. I just wanna let you know that I have some inkling of part of what underlies his concern. The most recent example was last Wednesday. The fire up on Main Road, I'm assuming you're aware of it, was set by an arsonist. Because it was an active crime scene, after they got the fire out, they were not able to clear all of the lithium ion containing items that were in the building, particularly because the person who set the fire was still at large, might have had a weapon, etc. Unfortunately, a computer with a lithium ion battery did later at night and restart the fire. So like that might not be an exact match, but I think part of the hesitation on the part of the fire chief, and probably the fire company is, unlike the rest of us, they do have repeated exposure to these batteries igniting and the difficulty of extinguishing those fires. And I think, I agree with you that I still think it's worth investigating and trying to figure out how to do as safely as possible. But I think that's what you're working against, because I've never seen one ignite or had to deal with the result.
Well, I think that, you know, there's plenty of computer activity in the firehouse. You know, we're all carrying lithium batteries in our pockets, so
Right.
It ain't going away.
No, that's for sure.
And my own sense of the fire company situation is that they got their hands full with regionalization, and they just can't think.
Devote the energy to it.
You know, it's bandwidth issue, and that's why I want to present them with a fully fleshed out plan for what we think is important to do.
Kara?
Do we have any town-owned buildings that have south-facing roof lines? I don't think just offhand that the firehouse is south facing. Isn't that what's most beneficial for solar panels?
But it's not no, the ridge of the firehouse is north-south, so each slope is west-east, roughly. So that's not ideal, but it's not like you can't do it.
Oh, no,
because of
I know
that.
that. I'm just wondering if we have other buildings that would be more beneficial to the town as a whole.
So one of the, and correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, this was from a couple years ago that we first did a survey of all the town-owned buildings and all the town-owned land. And actually, they surveyed land that's not even town-owned, to see if there was anything that the town could take. So everything under the sun in Monterey was reviewed for feasibility, not by an engineer, but with some guidance. And those two main properties, the Cap landfill and the firehouse and pavilion, were identified as the best options. I mean, a lot of the other roofs the town owns, like this one, the schoolhouse, the library, the community center, they're small.
Yeah.
They're small and they're
Oh, it
split up.
definitely has the
Yeah.
space up there, for sure.
So-
I just-
And the town highway is facing south, right?
Yeah.
The shed is.
You also don't always have to put panels on the roof, you can put them on a pole.
Well, wasn't that lot behind the pavilion on Fox Hill Road considered for this as like a solar field versus roof?
The working group early on decided that the Fox Hill property, which is wooded, east sloping, and very centrally located, is a totally inappropriate place for a large-scale solar field. It'd be ugly.
Oh, I
And
know,
you
it
would
would be
see
in
it.
my backyard. I'm
You
not in
would- yeah,
favor
you-
of it. I'm
you
just
would-
asking.
You would see it from everywhere.
Yeah,
The municipal array that we're talking about, that we have a developer for, is on the little knoll above the transfer station. The perfect place
that'd be
for
much
it.
easier.
You know, you could
Yeah.
throw out your trash and look up there and say, it's clean energy. I don't think that's the right place for a large scale array. I do think that if that property were developed for housing, those houses should be designed to be net zero, and they should be done in conjunction with solar electricity in whatever way seems most efficient. Could be on the roofs of the houses, could be a central set of panels on a pole somewhere as part of these buildings.
I recently saw an apartment complex or housing complex like that. I don't know if it was town owned or developed. And they had carports for their car
Yep.
parking.
Yep.
That had them as the roof.
Yep.
And that also supplied energy for electric car charging for the residents. It was really cool.
Where was it?
New York somewhere.
That's cool.
So I think let's return the conversation to budget,
Yeah.
because we are
Sorry. Yeah.
coming to the budget warrant signing time, not tonight, but soon. From what I'm hearing from you, maybe $10,000 would help keep moving along on these projects for a year.
I think so.
And does Green Communities need any funding, or would it all be for looking at the potential solar?
I think that, wait a minute, what's your question? Would it provide funding?
Would Green Communities need any funding? Would the application need any funding, or is this just for consulting with Beacon for the Cap landfill and the fires?
I think certainly the most of the funds would be for Beacon. I think the Green Community application is kind of funded by DOER. They're providing at no cost the person who comes down from Maine to stay in town for a couple of days and visit all the town buildings and, assess them for energy use and so forth. And then once, if we should be so lucky, we are designated a green community, you have funds available to execute the plan.
How much, you know? How much?
I'm not sure, tens of thousands anyway. Maybe
There's a
more.
map on the state website that shows all of the green communities,
Yeah, it's almost
and-
every town in Massachusetts.
and also a spreadsheet of all the funding.
Let me just bring it up.
Right.
Cool, good to know.
Another thing, you know, relative to Firehouse is that when the working group was first formed, the green community application was underway. It's been underway for at least 10 years. And one of the obstacles, or it has been claimed that one of the obstacles to receiving that designation is the status of the firehouse and the pavilion and the property on which they sit as being, you know, owned by a nonprofit, not by the town. So, you know, in the dubious eventuality that the town owns that building, it changes the value of saving energy there or cleaning up the energy there, or both. So,
So all that said, thanks Peter for the recap and question and answer. I would propose a $10,000 special article,
Non-free cash?
free cash
Free
special
cash.
article. Any other thoughts or questions or concerns?
I assume that that means that it's on a contingency kind of basis. You know, it's not a fund that then is all used or only used by REWG. It's just that that amount would be available as we spend. That's,
And we have to be, we'll hopefully run the special article wording by you to encompass any reasonable expenditures it might entail. We've run into problems in the past when we were too specific. And we shouldn't say to pay Beacon for this
Right.
study.
right,
We should say for roofs, you know, so photovoltaic. You can help us draft the wording.
okay, Good.
To give people and us an idea of what the money is for, but also give flexibility.
if we draft that language, I mean, do you want to draft it first and then show it to us and we
Why don't, if you wanna take a stab at it, that's good by me.
meet, a week from Wednesday? Is that enough time?
Do you personally wanna take out a stab at it sooner? Our
Okay.
target date for signing the warrant is next Tuesday. I
Okay,
have a strong feeling it might not happen that Tuesday, but it might happen the following week.
I'll send you something
But yeah.
before Tuesday.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, thank you, Peter.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Peter.
Just wanna note that that brings our, the remaining free cash down to 21.
So after reading, Susan, what you solicited from the lake scientist, I feel like
I was
we
just-
probably can postpone
Yeah.
buying an algae monitor.
So zero that out.
Is anyone opposed to that? Susan asked the lake scientist about the algae monitor. And basically, it would be really useful and cool and helpful in certain ways, but it's not,
Her
need to
conclusion was,
break it.
ultimately, I would love to see this kind of continuous data for Garfield, but it likely would not change any of my recommendations about how to best manage cyanobacteria. So, sort of feel like the 14, what was it, 14,000?
1489.
The 13,891, the 14K might be better off just somewhere else this year. So I mean, I love data, I'd love to know, I just don't think we need to spend that kind of money for something that's not gonna have an immediate net benefit.
If that's okay with everyone, we'll go ahead and defund that. Which leaves us with a free cash balance after the meeting of, idea of proposed 35,000. Which is within the target range.
I watched this last year, I'll just bring it up again. Are we close to a snow emergency? Were we able to get through the budget on snow, salt, and overtime?
Yeah. Yes, we were.
So it's under budget then?
Yes, it is. Forget how much it is.
We're at only about 66.6, I think, was your calculation, percent of the fuel budget. Which we're 3/4 of the way through the year. I think that's pretty good considering the number of snow events.
It oddly benefits us in tangential ways when we're understaffed.
Well, it's the same number of road miles though. Somehow
It's
not,
different.
it's different.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean,
And
when
that's
every
with
day
the-
you have 5 people show up and jump in a vehicle for 8 hours. You know, sometimes they're paired off, but
Right.
I think that has been somewhat established that when we're understaffed,
The fuel usage is less. I mean, ironically, that's even with the concerns people have about our fire department deploying floaters.
We have about $21,000, $24,000 left, somewhere around $21,000.
We shouldn't be providing more salt.
Nope, not until July. We're gonna stock up now because there were shortages this year. It was tough. There are a lot of towns that were asking for other towns for salt. So we're gonna start in the summer, storing up. I forget how much we used actually.
I think there might
500
be
tons
some,
or something like that.
the supply issues maybe interrelated to where it's coming from.
Yeah, there was an issue. I think they had an issue with the Hudson River because it was frozen this year. And so they were having trouble with barges coming up the river and things like that with salt. I know that Boston had the same issue with salt, the Boston metro area. They were running low.
That's the end of that bar.
What's on there?
I think so. I'm not certain yet.
we wanted to talk about the school.
Oh, yeah.
If there's anything,
Do you have that?
yeah, why don't we start with the
You
discussion?
put the letters in.
I did not, I'm sorry.
Mari asked to talk to me today and said that New Marlboro, and I'm right on board with her, but New Marlboro is extremely concerned about the budget memo we received from schools saying that they're going to put a 6% cap on the assessment, which based on options 1 and 2 we've previously seen, which were an 18% and a 9.6% increase in assessment, would mean it's less, the budget's smaller than option 2. What doesn't accompany that is either an actual breakout of what the individual towns would be doing for operating capital or the bond payments. So we don't have actual numbers to put on our warrant, and if you run the numbers, it's complicated enough for them, you can't just estimate it based on the other ones, because too much changes. And number 2, zero information about what cuts are going to be made as a result. And they're really concerned because they don't feel like they can go to the voters and say, hey, it's great, look, we won't have to pay much, but we have no idea what that's gonna mean for education programs. And I feel quite completely the same way. I wrote a quick letter here, I'll
Sorry.
that's okay, you had a lot on your plate today, so, if I can find it, no. Here is the subject letter. You want me to read it or just send it to you? It's only 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
We appreciate, dear Dr. Ricca and the Southern Berkshire Regional School District Finance Committee, we appreciate your willingness to respond to questions and your continued hard work on the budget. The March 27th letter from Dr. Ricca mentions a 6% cap on the overall assessment for the town. The town of Monterey respectfully asked for, oh, by the way, he did ask for questions. So he respectfully asked for additional budget numbers and associated information so that we can make a clear presentation to the people of Monterey when they vote on the budget on May 2nd, 2026. We plan to sign our town warrant on Tuesday, April 7th, and would appreciate some precise figures by that time. At a minimum, we require updated figures for Monterey's operating and transportation budget assessment, capital budget assessment, debt service, boiler bond assessment. These are individual line items on the budget for which we require accurate figures. Secondly, we also asked for some clarity on what cuts will result from this particular budget plan. We know that our taxpayers are very concerned about the increase, but they are also thoughtfully concerned about what the cuts will mean for the education of our students. Without this information, we cannot make well-informed decisions. Finally, we urged the superintendent, this was the part I thought people might not be certain of. We urge the superintendent and the school committee to consider early retirement for some teachers as a way to both reduce the budget and the number of positions that will be affected. This might also allow the retention of younger teachers who will continue to help teach the children for years to come, as many of the older teachers retire, respectfully. I mean, I know that historically, there have been times where they did offer early retirement to some teachers. I know the union contract encourages termination of newer teachers, but there are a bunch of teachers, we know what the statistics on the age of people is at this point. There's a bunch of teachers that are closing in on retirement, and if there's a lot of schools that aren't hiring all over, if we cut all the young teachers, they're not gonna have jobs, they're not gonna get teaching experience, and we're gonna have trouble finding qualified people when those people start retiring. And there's gonna be retirements every year from now forward, probably quite a few, and I think this would require the cutting of fewer positions. It would carry some money into the future because we still have to pay for retirement, but I think ultimately it'd be a better choice. But that's the paragraph I figured people would maybe either wanna cut or change.
Well, certainly a lot of organizations have come up with innovative ideas for offering incentives to people retiring early. It costs money though. It does cost money to offer early retirements as an incentive. I'm not sure how far out the savings come back. It's kind of like an immediate outlay, and then there's a return in future years. But it really requires a consultant to calculate that.
I think Murray said that when it happened like 20 years ago, her recollection was that it's not a huge immediate savings, but that basically what they do is they say they'll continue to pay into your retirement even though you're not getting your salary. So that their retirement continues to increase even without that salary. So I don't know what else was involved. This was before my active involvement in that. So it would mean stretching out contributions to retirement at the same time we'd already be paying the retirement. And this way we might, one teacher might equal two teachers.
Now, the other thing, I was wondering what the status was apparently of, they're not assessing the towns enough money last year, and there was a budget shortfall. Do we know if that's still happening, or got
We don't know. We don't know anything.
Well, they have like the equivalent of free cash in the past, but they don't still have that amount, or?
Have you heard anything further?
I've heard a couple stories. I've heard that it hasn't been certified for them, whatever that means. I've also heard that they're thought to use it for offsetting some budget issues. So I think I don't really know what that is either. There is a budget meeting tomorrow at 11:30 or something like that. There's it's available through Zoom access remotely, so I plan to be there, listen to it.
I could add something like, we look forward to hearing
An explanation.
an explanation of the
That's still an issue or
certification
not?
of your E&D monies and whether or not there will be a shortfall for FY '26. I mean, ultimately, it seems like the plan they're putting forward guarantees we'll have to have a special. I mean, there's just too many unknowns. That's how I'm thinking of it. What do you think?
We're actually, I've reached out, I was talking to Mari, who's our tax collector, Mari Enoch, who's our tax collector, but she's also the new Marlboro town administrator. And we were talking today, and we're actually going to try and meet with the other town administrators. There's really only one other one, because I don't believe Egremont or Alfred actually have town administrators. So we're gonna try and figure out who to meet with there, just to try to figure out what the different towns are thinking about how to move forward with the budget and how they're going to, what they're gonna do, put it on the budget, vote for last year's money, whatever the plan is, and see how things go. Because that's probably something we should talk about is what happens if they don't give us a budget? And what does that mean?
Rika did ask for questions by today, by end of today, because the budget meeting's tomorrow. Right, so.
And that's the first of their weekly budget meetings.
Fair budget, but then we-
Think they'll have it?
Um,
So they promised to do, weekly, budget updates. They promised that, which tomorrow is the first one of those. And, but they're not saying when their budget will be done. So,
So long and short, we might end up having to have a special town meeting. If we don't get a final number, we put something on our warrant, but then there would have to be a special town meeting before we could pay the revised amount, so we would have.
and that's what we're trying to figure out, because some towns, they might not put any dollars
Going
on,
down in.
like $1 on it for all the budget for that, or they might vote on last year or this year's and then supplement it later with a special town meeting. So that's what we're trying to figure out, because it's regional. I think, one town could vote $0, but if 4 towns voted, it just passes. So if we can all kind of coordinate it ourselves, I think we can figure something out. But that's my understanding.
Yeah, one second. If they provide us with a budget, we should put on the town meeting warrant. Why would any town not put it on the town meeting?
If they put the issues, if they.
Are they
get us-
allowed to not put it on the town meeting?
Yeah, you put $0 on
But
it.
it's a regional school district with a school district agreement, and it doesn't compel towns
But
to,
they didn't give us a number.
I know
They
that,
didn't give us a budget.
well, they did, it's terrible, but they gave us a budget.
No, but now they're saying a 6% assessment cap with
Yeah,
no
no, I
actual
understand.
numbers.
and that's why I'm trying to figure out what,
What number did we put on there?
yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the other towns are gonna do, because if we can kind of coordinate it, it makes it a little bit easier.
Well, I think also, all things considered, our target date for signing the warrant was next week, but that is by no means necessary, and
But I'm putting that on there because
we can,
I'd like to light a fire under them.
yeah, Kara.
Just off of your comment on, putting last year's budget on our warrant. The only concern that I have with that is that they say, okay, and then make a bunch of cuts, like going with that budget is allowing them to have a smaller budget, which might seem better, but you don't know what it's for, and then you're just giving it to them and blindly. I would recommend the $1 or the $0, and then
Yeah.
we have a special town meeting and that sucks, but.
And that's what we're trying to
It's-
figure out, so what makes sense with 5 towns.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I'm glad to hear you guys are doing that. Do we wanna send this? And do you wanna edit it or send it as is?
Can we do that later? Cause finish the budget.
It's not a final
but-
thing.
Yeah,
Cool.
but,
Alright.
but I think basically, yes. Okay, so the school is a remaining issue, but Roger, thanks for, trying to make some movement on it. Is there anything else in the budget?
The only other
Any
thing,
other questions that anyone has, concerns?
the only thing that I'm waiting on, and I was reminded of this by Mickey, thank you, Mickey. Maya hasn't given us their quotes yet.
For insurance.
For insurance, so the bonds and insurance, so, I spoke with them today. Probably the driving factor, is going to be, the injured on duty insurance. Because, we just need to make sure, they needed to make sure that everything was up to date on all our, the current 6 people, and I asked them to give me a separate quote for what would be for an additional 3 people on top of that, and what that would mean dollar-wise, so
Just
that should
for
be in the next week. I think.
clarity, workers' comp covers regular workers, but there's a separate category for police and fire called injured on duty. It's essentially the equivalent of workers' comp.
And it's a separate insurance.
One thing a lot of people don't realize is that volunteers are covered by workers' comp. Right, so, not just volunteer fireman, but volunteer anywhere. If you're appointed as a volunteer, then that's a category of workman's comp that is factored in, so we've always had all the firemen covered by this, whether they were, whatever.
Right.
I don't know if there was a distinction between.
Well, because they're full-time, because we just had 3 full-time people with the police officers, and they're with the 3 full-time fire. That, so
I just
those are
wonder-
covered by that as well.
If someone's not a full-time, less than full-time, their premium would be less than a full-timer?
That I'm not certain, we would let them
Workman's
know.
comp insurance typically was based on compensation,
Yeah, right.
but in reality, I don't know how, police and firemen, they all could have the same risk if they're fighting the same fire, right? I mean, they don't all go to fires all the time, so there's a limited number of fires they attend, and they're all at risk. And so I just wonder if it has anything to do with being full-time, part-time, I don't know.
I told them we have part-timers, so, I mean, we have full-timers, so.
Yeah. So we'll see how it rolls out.
In the past, they've also been able to ballpark an estimate.
Which is what I think they're giving us.
Okay.
And I just want to also bring up the question we had discussed on more than one occasion, whether to have the proposed additional firefighters as a separate article like we did last year, or to leave it in the operating budget as line items. And I keep going back and forth, but I still feel like I'd rather have it in the budget. And Roger went ahead and prepared the numbers for, if one or more of the lines will cut, what the change to health there would be. And I feel that way because I feel like, number one, it alleviates problems next year in trying to take those lines and put them back into the warrant. And number two, it gives a total for the increase to the budget and to the budget line that's all at one view. You don't have to come back to it and explain what the change would be. We still have to be prepared with all the figures of what is it with it, what is it without it. But I think the transparency down the line and to looking at the whole thing at one go is clearer than having it in a separate article.
I could go either way, but I
Yeah, I
think
know.
in the last year we did out of the budget, that has pros and cons in the budget.
Has pros and cons.
Yeah.
All right, one other question, and that is the status of our excess capacity. Are we still pretty good? 'Cause
The last time I looked, and, it, a lot of it's based on estimates
Well, of course,
for the FY '27, right?
right.
The excess capacity looked like, I don't know. I got it,
Yeah, I've got just value in a bunch of those.
Oh, it's something.
Yep.
Oh, because the cherry sheet, somebody erased the cherry sheet estimates for.
Well, I know it
receipts for
could have
that.
been me. I don't have permission to touch it.
I have to go back and look and see, and set that number.
I just.
It looks like they got, I think it was around $500,000 or so, it was over $500,000.
So, I think right now, we would be carried forward,
Yeah, that's where it
because
was.
we do still need year 3 of our full-time conversion, so, fire department, so that's why we're anxious about that.
I believe it was around 1.1 million.
Pardon?
I believe it was around 1.1
The
million.
original.
1.1 million last year, yeah.
No, the excess levy capacity this year.
That we
Why-
had for this
why is
year,
that?
but how much would we be using between the school, like, depending on the
About-
budget?
Well, like Roger said, so there's a ton of factors,
Right, yeah.
but let's just go back to the operating budget. The operating budget increase is
9%.
$500,000, 600,000. So that's, unless something else changes drastically, which we're not expecting, the other things to change that drastically, we're well within our excess levy capacity.
He just wants to make sure that there would be a left.
Oh, we still got
excess left.
another big lump to go
Yeah,
next year, so it's all.
Did you had also raised the issue of talking about health benefits again this week?
This week again?
Well,
Like that was last week.
no, we talked about it last week and you said we should think about it and. come back to
Well,
it.
Yeah, I mean, I proposed a plan last week. We did a couples plan for each vacant or new position, which is 5 couples plan, which will also serve as a buffer in theory. And if anyone has a better plan or any questions, let's talk about it. But other than that, that's where we're at.
So Roger and I talked today and, of course, there's no way to know what happens between this week and next week, but as I understand it, Ryan and Roger are making an offer to a police candidate that was interviewed. And he has a family and it's a pretty good bet he would take the family plan. So although we had money in this year's budget to cover that, the person he's replacing had a single plan. So we swapped one of the 5 with
a family.
with a family.
Yeah.
We put it under cushion because we
Yeah.
wanted it clear that it was under consideration.
And then we could lower the 2-person to, because we're also taking into account, we do have 1 open position in the highway department, which we don't know that would be a family or a 2-person or a single. So we kept it at 4 2-person, but we could drop it to 3, because basically 2 2-person plans is a little bit more than a family plan. So if you reduce, because a 2-person is 16,936, so it's 32 for 2 of those, it's 26,000 for a family plan. And
Are we not gonna hire someone for highway?
well, we are.
No,
But-
we're just trying to balance the
Yeah.
buffer.
Oh, well,
There's highway plus new hires, so.
that was the point of saying, do it all couple plan.
Right.
Because someone or multiple people will take family, someone or multiple people will take single and 2-person, and some won't take any. But that was the theory behind 2-person. Now it sounds like we have a little more possible intel.
Yeah.
Possibly.
It
Because
may
as
change by
people
next
don't
week, who knows?
take jobs that they get offered, and sometimes they leave after 2 weeks, but.
Yep.
I think I'm comfortable with that. I wonder if for next year's budget, the accountant
We try and figure out something. a
could help
different
us
way- a
figure out
different
something
way.
more consistent and professional.
Yeah.
And maybe he looks at everything and agrees with what we're doing, but I feel like we're small enough where it can be very volatile and also large enough where we can start using math.
We could, I think that, yeah, right, I think it's harder, I think statistics just kicks you in the butt in small numbers. And believe it or not, statistically, 17 is a small number.
It kicks you in the butt in large numbers. So that friend that I was talking about that does health insurance for small business, he actually does health insurance for large businesses, and like when Wegovy, the GLP-1.
Oh, yeah.
He had whole businesses of thousands of, tens of thousands of employees where the numbers that they were having people pay, like, ended up being way short for that year, so it.
Yep.
I think this is good. Basically, we have 2 vacant positions, highway and police, and we have 3 new created positions on the fire department, as well as a possible combined position, which would be eligible for health insurance.
Right.
So we're taking those unknowns and proposing 4 couple plans and a family plan. And just to also remind everyone that even our current employees are unknowns.
Yep.
People get married, spouses die, kids become 26 years old, there's turnover, so.
People have babies.
People have babies, so it's all a prediction, but.
Okay, admittedly, the 2 people on the 2-person plans right now aren't likely to have another baby, but.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
Um,
Stranger things have happened.
I mean.
Any other questions or concerns on the budget? Any other questions or concerns on the budget?
Doing one, let's just go really quick through.
I know.
I was just gonna look at the That's based upon 10 hours.
Well, the
That's the
Concom
we're
is
waiting.
having their first interview tonight.
Okay,
I don't think they have canceled.
Oh, did it?
I think so.
I think that's an instance too where I almost wanna budget for the position, cause it's been a revolving door, and I think, we haven't paid enough in the last several, iterations.
The last two budgets, we've always had monies left over because the person has left before,
Right.
before the year, end of the fiscal year, or only worked a few months, like this year. Well, I can't remember when Kim left, but this year it's been maybe like 50% of the time, it hasn't even been, there's been nobody in that position, something like that.
But I think that said, going up in the compensation range might help us keep someone more consistently.
I think that the job is, at some point, I feel like I appreciate that Nick went out to try to get a joint plan, but 5 towns, as we learned, is, I mean, I just think 5 towns is untenable. But it just doesn't work, like, you got too many bosses, essentially.
Well, so what about that building, what about the building department?
Yeah, that's the thing, remember we talked about.
What, the new building department or the tri-town?
The consortium that they're doing out of Stockbridge. So I
I
think
mean,
there's
I
5
don't know.
towns.
And Tri-Town Health. I mean, I think it's actually totally doable, and we've had people piece together part-time jobs for a Concom agent
Right,
and then leave for a full-time job.
Right.
So it takes the right management, but I think it's probably the way of the future.
I agree, I guess it's just a question of how to establish, like, they managed it with they're trying to manage it with building department, they did it with the tri-town. What does it take to actually establish one that's going to be, should I call it resilient? I'm not really sure.
Well, I think part of this is we're doing piecemeal regionalization, department by department with different,
No, it's
with
awkward.
different groups, and I think, in 10 years here, we have to do wide scale regionalization because it's not sustainable. We're very fortunate in certain ways, like to have Don Trigo be the village commissioner for more than 20 years. But other positions have been revolving doors in large part because they're too small and
At the same time, it's hard for me to see the Berkshire County going back to a county government. You know, it's really, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, a lot of other, I mean, I was thinking about Jeff talking about it. He's modeling that on places that already had existing county government, where people were already in the mindset of that type of thing, of working through that sort of thing. And here, it's like everyone has a little piece of territory, and it's really hard for them to have the trust to work with the other groups for lots of good reasons. I'm not poo-pooing that. I'm just saying, I think from a functional standpoint, trying to get people to consider doing that, it's hard. And I think you're right, we're gonna have to.
it's gonna
get
be
over
harder
those
when you're
hurdles.
hiring your third conservation agent in a year and your third building.
You're not getting me to
Yeah.
disagree with you,
And
I
then
think
people
we
are
need
gonna
to
throw
do
in the
it.
towel.
Yeah,
Because more and more, a lot of these positions previously had been done by volunteers.
right,
And when they're not anymore and they're small jobs and you're constantly hiring it.
and they're small
It's really-
and annoying jobs that take a lot to come up to speed unless you have experience in them. Watching my husband trying to come up to speed to act as the agent is my point of reference on that one.
All right, Mickey Jervis.
I'm just squinting at the numbers there for the library. The library wages have not gone down. I don't have the numbers with me.
I think it's because,
Because Mark is separated out.
Mark is separated
He
out.
gave me a separate line item for Mark.
Oh, there he is, way
He's
up
right up
there.
there, yeah.
Okay. Didn't see him up there.
it's so, that's the kind of thing that gets it so confusing, you're trying to be clearer, but it makes a
Well, the big
momentary
space,
annoyance, but
actually-
I know.
Actually, it wasn't showing.
Yeah.
So I know it's not big dollars, but with the park expense on the beach attendant monitor, we had decided on 21 hours, right? We were like gonna give them 7 hours for 3 days and let them deal with it. So I think when you had originally done the math, I have to double check this math.
Yeah.
But you had basically done whatever that was times 12 weeks.
Yeah.
But it actually, some of those weeks are not, like, the last 2 weeks in August are, I mean, we could round up to those
Yeah.
numbers, but I think it was a little bit high what you did, but I was gonna go through and actually figure out the number, but it's literally hundreds of dollars.
At most, yeah.
At most, it's not really that much.
I hear what you're saying, though.
So I was trying to figure out more like by days.
Like Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, like Friday,
Well,
Saturday,
I think
Sunday.
here's another,
And let- and to
here's
your
another
point, let
reason
them decide.
not to do that is
How did you work?
not to do it by Friday, Saturday, Sundays, is it gives them the flexibility to use those hours as they wish.
Yeah.
And that might be, and not micromanage it.
Right. We're just giving you a number and you do what you think is gonna work.
We can do it that way too. Should work out pretty close to the same, but I'll go through and figure it out. Just make sure.
All right, if we're done with the budget,
Oh my God, we're done with the budget?
Well, let's not get carried away.
except the single largest item, it's just a
Actually,
complete question.
Yeah, just
I know,
40% of the
right?
budget have no idea.
I know, just one quick thing, I mean, we could, what about the schools? I mean, what are your thoughts about the schools? Because we're trying to have this meeting actually next Monday.
Okay, so,
I mean,
We
what's
know-
your thought about putting numbers on the budget?
yeah. I think that's a good question for town council about the ramifications in the school district agreement.
Yep.
And also strategy with the other towns. But I will say,
Definitely.
to hear, 10 or more cuts to still have our budget go up. And I don't mean to scapegoat the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement,
Right.
but there was a collective bargaining agreement, and so people are gonna get paid more, and everyone wants people to be paid fair livable wages. So and that's a piece of the puzzle. There's other large pieces of puzzle, like the excess and deficiency and last year's budget. But I think my sense from people in town is, and my own opinion, I think lines up with, we'd like to spend money to have a good educational program and not pinch pennies on it. So if they can find 10 positions or more that are truly excess,
Or
that would
maybe,
be one thing, but if we're starting to talk about cutting programs,
or after-school activities, which are so important to so many kids, not to mention to so many parents who may be working. I mean, it's a twofer. Plus, I would like to know if they're cutting any administrative positions. I'm not in a position to know where that cut could happen, but I feel like a lot of educational facilities have excess administrators. I've seen the proliferation of administrators, and it's certainly at colleges, it's kind of ridiculous. I have no idea if that's true of Southern Berkshire, but.
And they increase their administrative budget
Which
for
they-
whatever that business manager costs. You would
Right.
think they would be able to take out somebody from the office that was doing that job that they're
But
paying
they
triple
weren't.
for now.
I think they weren't doing that job.
well, I think
Outrageous.
based on how this process went, I think spending some money on a good budget firm or person
Yeah.
is a money well spent.
Yes, it's
So-
kind of a required, but maybe there's someone else that is, maybe we don't need, I don't know what we have, right? But maybe we don't need 8 deans, because I've seen small schools with 8 deans, like, do you really need 8 deans? What are they doing?
And Rika actually said after that meeting a couple weeks ago that even though the school committee said in the meeting that it was 10 cuts, it was actually more than that, and he said that they were wrong in the meeting.
Plus, I think
So there's your
it
level
was
of-
10 cuts plus 3 retirements that weren't gonna be replaced. I think that's what I heard in that meeting, but it may have changed since then, I don't know.
And he said they were gonna start with people that had not been in the district for more than 3 years, so there's all your young teachers.
Well, this is why that was in there.
Alright,
So, I guess we're done with you guys unless you wanna have, I mean, so what does that say, so we would consult with,
I'll talk to Donna and see what Donna
Council
says and then come back
right,
within the next day or so.
I mean, cause like, I feel like it does, what Kara brought up makes me nervous. The idea that if we have something on there, it gives them free rein to just cut to get there without us having any idea what the cut's for. Like, I'd almost rather have the opportunity to know what those cuts are for, so we can be voting not just on the number, but on the plan.
Yeah, no one's suggesting putting the 6%. I mean, I don't even know what the 6% plan means. Because we have capital, operating, transportation, the loan and interest is what it is.
But we didn't even know with this, even when we had numbers, we don't actually know what cuts that represents. We know
So-
it represents cuts, but we don't know what they
And
are.
So, that's a good question, and I know the superintendent was talking to the principals about where those cuts would happen, and maybe out of the not wanting to get people frustrated worried over their jobs.
Well,
They didn't-
I mean, they gotta be,
But we put
probably
out-
everyone's worried,
Yeah,
right? And I get that they don't wanna finalize that prematurely because, you know, people could quit or people, all kinds of things can happen, right? And you get complaints either way, right? Simon's Rock told people 6 months in advance. And there were people that thought, and there were people that left as a result of that because they got another job and they just, right? Because it would take the job right then or not. That's a possibility. At the same time, I feel like,
Well, don't they have the same problem in schools, that they have to get a certain notice before the layoff, so that can apply something, there's something in the.
I don't know, but.
there's a
even if it was
collective
the
bargaining
end,
agreement,
right?
so some of this isn't really up to our discretion,
Right,
and, yeah, Jeff Zimmerman?
Yeah, thank you. I just have one comment about this. I think from what I've seen, and maybe there's more detail than I realize right now, but if we're given two choices, do we want choice A or choice B? And they're not telling us, from what I think I heard you say, Justin, maybe it was somebody else, they're not telling us what does choice A consist of? What does choice B consist of? Specifically, what are the differences? They're not telling us that. They're just giving us a blank, a number. Then it almost feels like it'd be irresponsible to make a decision about which number if we don't know what we're buying. So, I'm trying to work that through in my own head.
Absolutely.
From the standpoint of having fiduciary responsibility, and I mean, you can pay $10 or $20, but I'm not telling you what the difference is. So just wanted to point that out, as it's confusing for me to know how to vote on it when I don't know what we're buying, what we, the town, is buying.
I
Or
mean,
giving up.
at the end of the day, if we don't have clarity on whatever the numbers are that they give us, if we don't have clarity on what that's gonna mean to the school programs, I would stand up at town meeting and say, I think we should vote the budget down until we know what it means. Because that's the only option we have, right? The only way to get, otherwise we're giving them carte blanche to cut whatever without knowing what we're buying. Or paying for it, however you wanna put that. But that doesn't mean that's what the voters would do, but.
Well, let's see how it develops over the next week or two.
Okay.
And get some clarity and talk to other towns. and
So,
talk to town
what do you wanna do by the letter?
We don't have the option of, once the warrants in the mail are changing,
We can do it on the
Well, we
floor.
could do it on the floor. We could amend it on the floor.
that's the only way.
But for example-
Amend it on the floor.
Yeah, so for example, you guys could decide to put, the select board finance committee could decide to put $1 in each of those three items. And then have to vote, once the
Give the
budget is
numbers on the
finalized, we
floor.
have to give the numbers on the.
So if there's any chance that they're gonna have a good budget out in time, I would not do $1 because
Right. Yeah,
that is not a good amendment to be made on the floor, $1 to 2.1 million. I would put in the closest thing that we know, but let's spend the next week or two
Okay.
and get a feel for, are we gonna have a budget by May, or are we not? And
Mari also pointed out that for some towns, it depends somewhat on the moderator. that there are moderators that will not allow a change to a line item outside of a certain percentage.
There's some that won't allow any increase whatsoever.
So that would be very awkward.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you can't make amendments that are outside of the scope of the meeting and the warrant, and, you know, that's up to their discretion, what's outside of the scope. We can't go and ask for, you know, $100,000 for a town hall renovation and then show up at town meeting and ask for, change it to $1 million, because people weren't warned, that's what we're doing, and someone might not have come to protest a $100,000 renovation, but they might have come to protest a $1 million renovation. And where you draw that line depends. Some moderators use a percentage, they won't entertain more than 25% increase, and there are some that are rigid and say they won't take any upward movement whatsoever in any item. So, do you want them to sign this letter too?
It's not printed.
It's not even printed, I don't know, like, are you, like, first, how do you feel about the letter?
I would
Do you
put
wanna
it on
add or
letterhead.
take out anything?
I would put it on letterhead, so I just didn't.
Well, why don't we keep moving, because the CPA's here, and I do wanna do the letter.
Okay,
But and the finance committee, if they don't need to be involved.
it's up to you guys, do you want your names on here, you don't care? Okay.
Yeah, why don't we do it at the end of the meeting?
Sounds good, I'm fine
So we
with
can get to the
Yep,
next.
Are you getting a report from the town's audit, from the town's audit? No. Is that CPA system?
Oh.
Community preservation.
Community Preservation Act.
Oh,
Not the certificate.
Too many,
That's the
too
other
many acronyms.
Looks like finance is adjourned, so bye-bye, everybody. Have a good evening, rest of your meeting.
At least I'm not the only one that gets acronyms sometimes.
Hi.
Hello. Community Preservation Act. What's the proposal?
Yeah, we're going ahead with it. 3%.
Anything to add, Tom or Laura?
I know we were.
Oh, I see your hand raised.
Your hand's raised, Laura, but your mic's off.
I think the Preservation Act is a great thing, but just listening to the financial aspect of our budget and knowing that the town citizens are going to be asked to pay an additional amount in their taxes, that I don't think that this is the right time, my opinion, to present that to the community. I know that the House Committee has worked very diligently to try to get things passed. But I also think that, we don't have to pass everything all at once, because with the new Affordable Care Act that we just passed, there's a lot of, I would say, administrative conditions that will be placed upon our treasurer. And with this particular one, that will be another additional posing of additional, accounting. But at this time, I really think that we should wait, my opinion. And I also think 3% is high. I know that we have 1, 2, and 3. 3 is great because it will start to fill up that particular situation. But you have to consider what's going on right now with the budget. And that is my opinion.
Yeah, I'm fully in support of CPA. I'm undecided about the timing. I think I'm curious to hear what the select board has to say, because I don't have enough vision into the rest of the warrant and or budget to understand the full impact of if we go in and say, okay, here's the budget. Now we want to add another piece of money onto that. So I'm curious to hear what the select board says.
Ken?
So when would be the good time? So last year, the same argument was made. This year, again, the same argument is made. Next year, Again, the fire department's coming in with another $500,000. So when would be a good time? I think the feeling of the housing committee is that, yeah, we'll let the people speak, and if they turn it down, they turn it down, but I think we should push forward with it. It should have gone on last year, it should have gone on a couple of years ago, but we missed our opportunity then. And we're stuck in a situation now that, between the fire department and now the school department, they're sucking all of the energy and the funds right out of the room, so.
Possibly the air.
Here we go, yeah, along with the year. So, I think I think the feeling is I share Laura's feeling, I share, but I think the timing is such that we're caught in a bind. And if we don't do it this year, we don't, next year is gonna be exactly the same thing, there's no difference. The town is facing tremendous financial issues. And, you all know how I feel, so. I think going forward, the only remedy for the CPA is to push forward with it and let the town speak, let it come up at town meeting and let the folks have their say, and we'll see what happens.
Anybody else?
Do you understand?
Well, you're speaking for our committee, I agree.
Yeah, I think that's a valid strategy. And when is I think that's the question. If not now, when? And is there going to be a better time? And we really can't read the tea leaves. I have the same concerns and worry that it'll be turned down and then kind of get tainted for the future. But until we do it, we really don't know.
If we did pass it at this year's annual town meeting, when would the tax come into effect?
Following year.
In January, the bills would reflect that change?
I believe so, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure.
Not the following fiscal year, but the following calendar year.
Calendar year. The other issue that we face in this going forward is that the state of Massachusetts is in dire shape financially. And there are towns in the eastern part of the state that are laying off, wholesale layoffs of fire, police, teachers. I think half of the towns in Massachusetts are going for an override, 2.5 override. So there's real issues in Massachusetts now, and so it's in terms of looking ahead, it's just going to get worse rather than better. And I think that we should, from the housing point of view, we're optimistic that we can do this, but we realize what we're asking, and it's a lot. It's a huge ask, but the case is a good one, and hopefully that it'll prevail. But I think I would much rather feel leaving it up to the voters to vote on it than hopefully the select board saying no to it.
So
just support it going onto the warrant and let us go forward with it.
So seasonal community and.
Both.
Okay. Mickey?
Do you have a ballpark idea of of how much money we would collect per year at this time with a 3%?
About 175 to 225.
It's 3% of our budget.
No, it's 3%. It's 3% of the real estate tax.
Real estate tax.
Okay.
But you can't have a $100,000 exemption. You can make that part of it as well.
Yeah, there is,
that
is part of it.
Yes, yeah.
Per
So
house,
on the value,
per property.
yeah, on the value of the property, and then it's a 3% surcharge on the real estate property tax. Right?
I'll get you an accurate number on that.
Yeah, no, I think that would be very helpful for explaining.
There's informational sheets that we've put together, and there's handouts and everything else, so we'll share that with you.
There are also exemptions that can be applied for financial need or for age requirements for the elderly. So there are additional exemptions that can be applied for. The other thing that we found interesting was it will enable us to apply for grants if we have a CPA in place. So CPA money might not be available for another year out, but this at 3% will help us go forward.
It'd be good too, if you have an information sheet that, if there are exemptions, it's clear on how somebody could get them.
Yeah, and we also have a model of an online model that people can plug in their taxes and get their,
Right.
this thing, the amount of money that they can and stuff. We're talking about roughly around $160, the average
a year.
cost, so.
I think Mickey had a question. Yeah, Mickey.
My question was just that, are they gonna be printouts and stuff so everybody can get to know this and they understand it before we go to town meeting?
Yes.
As long as you just answered that, so.
And we're doing an information session, another one, at the library on May 19th. That's open.
18th.
18th,
Saturday,
April.
Okay.
And actually,
That's better.
yeah, that is better. I actually also reserved the
April 18th.
library for Saturday, April 18th from 1 to 4, 1 to 2 hours, 1 to 3. Sorry, to do the fire
It's gonna be a
department.
day.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
But the problem was it was really hard to figure out a schedule because we wanted people to be able to have the warrants, ideally.
No, I know.
Right, and-
We're all feeling the same thing.
Exactly, and, Steve can be there on the 25th, and Sean can be there on the 18th or the 25th, and there's
Yeah.
a school holiday, I mean, it just was like.
Have to get a hot dog
So
cart.
April 18th, that's the date.
Oh, yeah, hot dog cart, what time?
Ours, I think we're gonna go for 9 to.
Nice to have one.
9 to 11 is what's on the library side.
So, okay,
As well as printouts and, so people can understand. And while we think that we should go for 3% because there's additional matching funds available, we are of the opinion, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that something is better than nothing. So if 3% didn't get passed, 1 or 2% might be more,
so I recall a conversation a couple years ago, Ken, maybe you were there, about CPA. And I forget if we can amend it on the floor of town meeting.
That's what I was just gonna ask.
You can,
You can.
Okay.
Isn't that right?
yes, that's my understanding.
Yeah, I actually talked to town council about that, because I wanted to understand how it worked. You would have the vote on the floor or at the town meeting, and then it would be at the next state election is when you would actually vote for it
Because
again.
it goes on the ballot.
It goes on the ballot. I think it's the actual state election in November, not the primary, which is in September, so I think it'd be November when it'd go on the ballot. So that's, and she sent me some language, and basically, you're just saying you agree with whatever the vote was at the town meeting, is what the language leads to.
In the past, I have not been a proponent of CPA for several reasons, but a large part of it was because I didn't know where the money would be spent.
are you more comfortable with it now?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
We've got about 3 weeks.
We had talked in the last 10 years, we've talked about housing now and again, and not much was ever really done, and Virgil Stucker will tell you about how he was on the housing committee in the 80s. So it was hard to think about setting aside hundreds of thousands of dollars toward these different goals, with one of the main ones being housing. But I have to say, I'm very impressed at what the housing committee has done in the last year or two, and it makes me feel a lot more comfortable setting up a revenue stream, knowing that the housing committee is making headway on these issues. And I think I at least support putting it on the warrant. Even if I don't personally support the idea because of everything the housing committee is doing, and it's an issue that absolutely needs to be addressed.
Well, we couldn't do it without the support of the planning. I mean, this is a real interesting situation, and I think the time is right. It's unfortunate that we're into this financial crisis situation, because it would, I mean, looking ahead, I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities going ahead.
Makes you wish
The
it
finances are
started in
gonna-
the 80s.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I missed it back. So, thank you, Justin, that was nice to hear.
Yeah.
The housing committee's working hard. I mean, it feels like it's we're moving ahead. We sometimes get out of our lane, or I do, but I get pulled back in, so it's good.
But the other thing is that there is a stipulation that a minimum of 10% gets to housing. There may be, and a minimum goes to open space at 10%, and a minimum of 10% goes to historical. You know, we have a meeting house that needs a lot of work if we really want to be able to use it. We have, you know, there are a lot of projects in the town that would benefit the town. So thank you for that about the housing committee, but it is, I think it's even broader, really.
It is, but I think that was also one of the concerns, is that we do need to allocate money to each of the three categories, although not necessarily at the same time. And there was a concern that maybe there weren't enough historic buildings, and there, you know, we didn't wanna spend more money on open space. I was on the open space committee, so that wasn't my opinion, but it was expressed. But I agree with Justin, like, I don't know how, given the budgetary situation, I think it'll be a close vote for a lot of people. But, I mean, you know, something's gonna get it.
Yeah.
Different people may choose, like, that's the thing. When you're making decisions for a large group of people who have different priorities, it's not like for your family, right? Each individual, you're not just making a choice for yourself, you're making a choice for everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's also, the interesting thing with the CPA too is there are two votes necessary. And that's a tough one, period, let alone our financial situation.
two separate elections or the town meeting?
There's a town
plus
meeting
the
and
ballot?
the ballot. So
Oh, that's what it, well, once we pass the town meeting, that goes on the ballot.
yes, yeah.
So at that point, it's a, next one.
Just like Proposition 2.5.
Yeah,
But again, it's another chance for people to speak up, and it's one more chance to up or down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it really puts it back on the community, and hopefully if we do the job we think we can do, then the community will be in support. If it's not, it's not.
I think it would be really good in advance of the vote to have some good numbers on you throughout the average taxpayer will pay $160, but also the average collection, at least for the first year. And then I think the other thing that would help me wrap my head around it is just some ideas about the next 10 years. So what projects would be, you know, not that you have to lay it out and say this one will cost $174,000, but that's another reason that I was hesitant and still am hesitant, is that I think a lot of historic preservation in this town has been done. I was for several summers an intern at the Bidwell House Museum and participated in the galas, and I have a lot of respect for historic preservation. So it's not that I don't support historic preservation, but I think a lot of it has been done.
Well, there's a lot of things that Bidwell House still wants to do.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the meeting house.
I think my hesitation is I don't feel, I am hesitant about, everything else on our budget is voted on each year, line by line, as an expense. And with CPA, you tax in advance and come up with projects later. And then to have the money to go, and I know there's the right way to do it, but monies go to nonprofits like Bidwell House Museum or Meeting House. I am leery of that, and that is one of the biggest red flags for me about the whole project. I've seen it happen in other towns, like in Stockbridge.
what do they use the money for?
They were gonna use it for, I think, a church restoration. I'm not sure what ended up panning out, but
They did that in Barrington, right? They restored
So
that.
there's a committee that's set
and
up.
I understand,
It's totally independent.
yes.
And then people give proposals, and the proposals are all public, and then money's allowed.
And I just don't like the idea of raising taxpayer money without a specified purpose, and then years later, it going to a nonprofit.
Well, you're not gonna get a specified purpose. You
No, that's
may
how,
get a possibility of possibilities,
yeah,
and we can look at other towns and see what other towns have done. But right now, we don't know where we're gonna be in 3 or 4 years.
I understand, but if the lion's share of this money is going towards private nonprofits,
I don't see it happening, but maybe.
I think I think that could potentially be problematic.
Okay.
And we've seen it go in other towns to private nonprofits. And from time to time, that may be a great thing, but, Ken, you know how it is to, we re-vote on every single budget every single year. And to then set up a fund where
Where they would be
it doesn't
voting,
function that
they would
way.
be voting by a fairly large committee every year for allocation of the funds coming in, but the funds have to be collected first. It takes about 3, 4 to 5 years to get an adequate amount of funds to actually make a difference.
Yeah, and then but I just think it would be good to be transparent with the voters what some of the ideas might be.
We are gonna be totally.
Restoration of Bidwell House.
Yeah.
There couldn't be a bigger supporter of the Bidwell. I totally support the
That's
Bidwell
all,
House.
it's all going to the Bidwell House.
The meeting house, some people may say, and they may be all within their lane to do so, some of that money might go toward the meeting house, I'm voting it down. And other people may say, the meeting house is so important to me and projects like that, that I'm gonna bear the burden of the extra tax. So, but I just think it's a question of transparency, letting people know what they're getting into.
I mean, I agree, fully. Transparency is key.
Edith Wilson Memorial Library.
Help, Tom.
I'm sorry, Memorial Gallery.
Can you end this, Tom?
The schoolhouse.
Get us out of here.
I think it's critical to have direct examples when we bring it to town meeting to say, hey, we're not just raising this money to have the money. We're gonna put it toward housing, and this is the project that we have laid out, which we've already spent some money and we need some more to do more work on it. And we've got the meeting house right down the street here that is obviously a jewel of the town. And we want to make sure that it stays that for the next 250 years. I think there's direct things that we can bring that are critical to make sure people understand why we're making this big ask.
Could the CPA money be, I know that from the housing trusts have used money to, I forget what, it's like the CDBG rent where you provide money to help someone with their down payment on a house.
Yes, Egremont is currently doing
And
a
then
really interesting
if
proposal.
and when it's sold, they have to
Yep.
give it back.
Yep. Or a percentage of it back,
It's like a
some,
lease.
yeah.
Right,
Kind of like a need.
Kind of, right, but the idea being that the money can stay in the town for the same purpose, that they would give that back and then you could use it for the next person if they met.
There's also renovation, the possibility of renovating houses, and I mean.
Right, and making
It's
them
a fairly large. So
habitable for older
we'll
people.
try to get it, we'll try to get as much down on paper as we can. It's clear. I agree with Tom, I mean, yeah, we can be very specific.
But just be clear that these are ideas and not necessarily this slate.
All right.
Laura Mency, you have your hand up, it looks like.
Yes, I do. I do agree with Tom, we should be really transparent. When we have the meeting on the 18th, in regards to the CPA, there will be examples on, the Housing Committee put a nice slideshow together on a piece of paper that gives you an idea of what the average house in Monterey costs and what a 3% tax would be. And if you took that, well, for me, if you took that amount of money and then you added the next tax from the firehouse, it could be $500 to $600 plus. That's on the average home, according to Zillow. That's a lot for somebody to have to increase their taxes for, when we just went through a whole reevaluation of our homes and the taxes went up. So I'm really advocating for the citizen and making sure that they are not overwhelmed with taxes, because I don't think that we passed the CPA last year. I think we were doing, the planning board was doing a lot of other things, and we've done a lot as well. The Housing Committee is a fantastic committee and has been very energetic in getting everything done. But I do think my big deal is adding another $500 to $600 to somebody's tax bill. Now that's on the average home of 768,000. That's the average price, but everybody else will still have to do 200, 300. That's a lot.
So the average price of a $700,000 home, the average is, I think it's 185.
Ken,
Oh.
I think she was adding in the other increases that are also happening, like the
We're not
school.
doing that.
I understand.
But if you're doing a 3%,
Someone's
We'll let
gonna
people
raise
add it up themselves.
it. Yeah.
well,
but-
I'm just, excuse me, Ken, but I'm taking it from your form that you provided to us. That's what I'm taking from. So, but anyway, you know, whatever we decide, you know, that's great. Let the people decide, but I'm really advocating for the citizens of the town. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, well, thank you for joining us.
Can I just say one thing?
Thank you for having us.
I didn't hear much as far as, does that mean you guys are in agreement that you put it onto the warrant?
Yes,
You want, I'll make a motion that we put the CPA on the warrant.
I would, and that's a good motion. And I think I was saving that only because Frank is not here.
Right.
But I think we have two members who support it being on the warrant here.
So we can make a formal motion next week when all three of us are here.
I'll vote for Frank.
I mean, technically, it only
That's a
takes two
three-year
of the three, it's just,
Yeah,
No.
the warrant isn't
Well,
finalized
we
yet,
can-
so there's no harm.
we, in any case, vote on the motion to put the CPA at 3% on the warrant.
Warrant,
Susan,
yes.
Justin, yes, it's on the warrant.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we'll find out how Frank feels about it.
Can I just make one quick statement on the schools?
Please, Ken.
The idea of not having the school part of our warrant raises an incredibly difficult situation for a special town meeting. Both for the school, but also for people voting on being able to see, talk about transparency, being able to see what the budget is. Without the school on there, you don't see what the budget is. And it's to me, it's just, it's one, outrageous that it's at this point, but at the same time, it creates a real difficult situation going forward for people making a good decision.
You're not gonna get us to disagree. Just out of curiosity, if you were sitting up here based on your previous years of experience in the hot seat, faced with, what would you put on the warrant? Option one for the 18% assessment increase, option two for the, what was this one, 9.3% increase, or option three with an unknown actual amount, but a theoretic 6%
Makes no sense.
assessment
None of
cap.
it makes any sense. It makes no sense. So they should be able to give you an accurate budget and stay with it.
I
And that's what
completely agree
they
with you.
need to do. I mean, that's what they're legally responsible for, and they should be doing it.
And we're asking
And
them
they
to do
stay
it,
in a room over there until they get it done.
but if they, at the end of the day, if we have to go to print and we don't have numbers, what do we do?
Well, what I would do is I would go somewhere around 10%, because we all know the budget. We all know that it needs somewhere around 10% without major cuts.
So basically, you mean like 10% for this, or 10%
Like
for
option
us?
two.
Right, option two.
Yeah.
So at your meeting tomorrow, one of the things that should come up is that if this all goes to special town meetings after the budget has been passed, the school department stands a very good chance of 1, 2, or maybe even 3 towns turning it down.
Yeah. I mean, they may turn down anyway,
Yeah,
but
so
they're
it-
definitely gonna turn it down.
It's
if they're
absolutely
forced to go back.
bonkers for them to even consider holding off and putting it forward. So they should come up with something. And I would agree with Justin that if there's nothing coming forward, that you take what you think is a reasonable upgrade from last year, 10%, and put it on, and you have an explanatory paragraph that explains what you're doing. But not to have it as part of the budget just really skews the whole process.
I completely agree.
We could talk this all night.
Yes.
Yeah, Kara?
Are they, the school district, legally allowed to change what the budget is for from what they've given us? Like, so let's say we vote the 18% increase. This is hypothetical, obviously, nobody's gonna do that. Are they allowed, after we change that, to go back and say, well, we'll still cut 10 teachers and the superintendent gets a $300,000 raise? Are they allowed to change the plan without changing the number to make it work differently after the fact, or does
I
it
would
have
think
to follow the
not.
plan they give us?
Cause it comes with a line item.
I think that personally, as long as they're within the budget line of whatever it is that they're
They
doing,
can do it.
they can probably do whatever they wanna do.
We're only voting on the number.
I'm not expecting the superintendent to get a $300,000.
I think though that they have the limitations, they have the wall of their CBA, right? So they have their union contract,
Right.
which kind of sets those limits of what
Yeah.
happens within those pays, but I would think that, once it's done, they can do what they want to do with it.
Okay.
I don't know that that's ever happened, but. that doesn't
No,
mean
I'm
they
just-
couldn't-
That's why I said hypothetical.
Thank you all,
How
thank
it
you for
works.
what you do. guys.
Good night.
Appreciate
You
it.
had a tough year.
Good night.
Thank you, take care.
Okay, what else do we have?
Annual town meeting warrant.
So I've thrown, so these are obviously all the cash ones, right? Dollar value ones. We're zeroing out the Lake Garfield, right? We're zeroing that? Or math?
We're zeroing like purple? The algebra.
The algebra.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a formula, I think it was a number.
Yeah. And that.
They're all
is 10
numbers.
And that's 10,000. We're giving 10,000 to that, which leaves us to 35.
And honestly, do we put $10,000 in stabilization? At that point, what does 10,000 do?
I know.
10,000 was a placeholder.
You mean we should put more?
Well, we don't have the money to
We don't have
put more
the money
unless
to
we
put
pull
more.
it from somewhere else, but I'm just saying, do we even have a warrant article saying contribute 10,000 to stabilization?
I think this year, because of the way the year is, I don't think we necessarily have to.
Yeah.
I would, we should.
Personally, but let's not take it out until, full committees, but
I know it is $10,000, but again, it's $10,000, which, whatever $10,000
But
is
I-
now.
so I put that money, or I recommended, asked to put that money in there as a placeholder, basically.
I don't think, based on what the year is like, and, we're down at that minimum amount that we like to have, don't we like usually about $40,000?
40.
Yeah, so we're down to that minimum amount, I think to have it is a good thing to have. This things might pop up, you never know.
Well, for one thing, what happens if the school comes back and
I
asks
know.
for more money?
That's another thing to find
To make
out.
up the FY '26 budget.
I don't know,
So,
that could really throw it.
the good thing that we often forget, that we do have, what's our stabilization balance, it's
$712,000.
712,000,
Yeah.
so,
That has
that's a little savings account
So,
for a pinch.
it's gone up a
Because the
little.
other thing is, if anything comes after July 1, that free cash isn't available anyway.
Yeah.
So if this school budget issue rolls over into the summer,
Right.
we can raise and appropriate, but we could also remember in our back pocket is the stabilization fund, which
Which is
is
interesting,
for emergencies.
and it takes 2/3, right?
Yeah.
Takes 2/3 to vote out of there. So,
But the good part of that would be that if we had already passed a budget that included something.
Yeah.
Then it wouldn't necessarily carry over to hit us in the face quite so badly next year, like applying the free cash to the levy did that one year, where the
Right.
next year it was like getting hit with a halibut, 5-day-old halibut
So we'll zero that out.
that was in the heat.
Don't, because we're not in joint
Oh, that's right.
committee, but
Okay,
we'll
Yep.
propose it next week.
makes sense.
I think there's a slim to none chance we're signing the warrant next week.
Yeah, I think so too, but
Yeah.
I still feel like I wanna say that we're planning to do.
Yeah.
Because.
Yeah, for the letter, we are.
Yeah.
If Southern Berkshire Regional School District is listening,
Yeah.
we're signing the budget next week.
That's right.
We actually referenced it in a meeting a couple weeks ago, we have to have it done because Monterey is going first, so.
Yeah.
So
They're
last
thinking
year,
about it.
they were so late in getting the budget to us that we signed the warrant. And then we got a
Change
call
on the floor.
that they
Yeah.
changed it after we signed the warrant, so we gave them a hard time.
Last year when they decreased it, and it was hooray.
Yeah, I was like, really? That doesn't seem good.
Did-
I don't, that's something's not right.
I know we talked about, because I know you just mentioned it because Frank's not here, do you wanna leave the algae monitor stuff in there? Because I think
No.
he said he was okay with
He
the
was
last
okay,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, we had joint committees with
Yeah.
that change, we just didn't have Frank, but, if Frank feels strongly about the algae monitor, we'll see him next week, but, So then we have special articles, CPA,
I have, well,
seasonal communities, and the tax title revolving
yeah,
fund.
and I'll get the paperwork for that. I can send it to you.
So we've now set a date, April 9th, I believe, we're meeting with, various persons from Otis to talk about, fire and ambulance. I don't know exactly what the topic of the conversation will be, but the select board member, TA, fire chief, another rep from the fire rescue squad, and I don't know if they're bringing anyone else, but they might.
That was it, yeah.
So we probably are going to put out a meeting notice, because Frank would also like to do president, which is fine.
Alright,
Just let you know.
the next item is appointing Brian Jeffries to the Board of Registrars, so as you may probably know, there's a residency complaint against the select board candidate and the town clerk. You just call a meeting of the Board of Registrars, and it was noticed that Brian's term had expired by a month, so we have to reappoint him.
Okay.
For 3 years. And I will check with town council, we can make that to June 30th of 29, that contingent upon that being acceptable. Otherwise to March 31st of 29. Clearly the off June 30th appointments really
Mess things
mess things up, as they are in this instance.
Yeah.
But I will just have to make sure that we legally can do that. I don't know how
Make it
much
go
we'll get back
through
on
the June.
schedule.
Yeah,
You wanna wait to do the appointment, or you just wanna do the appointment with contingency?
I mean,
Yeah, for 3
the
years.
only way I can think of to do it is the annoying thing of doing it from now till June 30th, and then reappointing him again when we do the June 30th.
Well, I have an idea. Why don't we do it till June 30th of 28, which we know we can definitely do.
Right,
And then,
so it's only 2 1/3 year, yeah,
yeah,
that.
and then if town council allows it, we could do June 30th of 2029.
Oh, because it's more than 3 years.
Right,
Yeah, I don't, so this messes us up, and everyone says, make all the appointments end on June 30th, and we've tried really hard, and we're basically there. But once in a while, there's an outlier on a particularly formal committee that's not an ad hoc advisory committee.
but if she's not here and we need to reappoint him, why don't we say
Yeah.
to 2028 and
Yeah,
leave
because
that.
with the ad hoc advisory, we just make it June 30th no matter what.
Right.
But when it's Conservation Commission, something, a body that can have legal action taken against it,
Right.
and does, we don't want to, be in a bad spot there,
So
so,
we need a motion.
oh yeah, I'll move that we reappoint Brian Jeffries to the Board of Registrars, valid through June 30th of 2028.
I will second,
Any other questions or discussion? We'll call vote.
yes.
Yes, the motion carries. Do you wanna work on your letter? I didn't wanna forget that. I'm sorry to
No,
push it
I
off, but I wish it was
completely
just you and
understood.
me.
I had no objection, I wasn't sure if they wanted to participate in that, right, yeah.
See if I can pull it up here in a different email.
That's okay, I'm sorry, do you want me to resend it? No, you get something
No,
else.
it's okay.
Regarding the cuts,
Mhm.
I think you basically asked it, but I might very specifically say with a 6% overall assessment increase, assuming a budget passes with a 6% assessment increase, which teachers or staff or programs will be cut,
Okay, where would you like me to put that?
and what cuts will result from a particular budget plan? Because I think they could come back to that and say, oh, well, we'll cut more than 10 teachers, like they say. Well, it's more than 10, 11, or is it 20?
Assuming the 6% assessment plan were to go forward, reword, say it again, what?
Which, teachers, staff, and or programs will be, right? That's basically what we're looking for.
Yeah,
And I just think if we don't ask it, very specifically, they'll, even if we do ask it specifically, I'm not
They're
really
not- I don't think
expecting them to say, Mrs. Thompson from third grade. And I think that it is a sensitive part of all this is people's lives.
yes,
Um,
without this information, we cannot, but let's try spelling and properly. Assuming the 6% assessment plan were to go forward, which teachers, staff, and or programs would be cut? Exactly which? Like, cause some teachers and some staff, like, I was gonna say, I mean, I think he knows what we wanna know.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't know what we're asking.
Well, no,
it's they don't wanna
I
answer.
honestly think they don't know why.
You know, well, they may not know what they're actually gonna do, but I think they know what we're asking.
Because 500,000, what's a teacher's salary? I don't know, 50,000, ballpark,
Something like
super
that.
ballpark.
I think somewhere between
If
50 and
E and
60.
D comes in at 500,000, do you not have to make any cuts? If E and D comes in at 500,000 and you need to spend it all on correcting last year's budget,
Then you really do have to make cuts.
if E and D comes in at $1 million and you spend 500,000 collect, you know what I mean?
Right.
How can you know? Like, it'd be like us trying to plan without knowing free cash.
I'm still trying to understand how they can not know.
Mm.
I don't understand, like, yes, our free cash certification was rather tardy. I get that, and I cannot say that for sure, there isn't, like, it isn't reasonable, but this seems awfully late. Right, like, if they gave us our free cash certification in June, that would kind of be a problem. Right, and it's not like the state doesn't know what the problem is. I don't know who's responsible for the free cash, for their E and D certification, but this is problematic.
Why is it telling me that without is spelled wrong? What did I do?
I don't know.
You know what, should I put an exclamation point there?
Yeah.
Do they like, do I need to be clearer? I don't
All
know.
caps.
Yeah. And do you want me to go ahead and leave the,
Yeah, I'm not a big proponent, I mean, my sense is they gotta cut in order to CBA, and maybe they can offer some kind of early retirement.
well, they
It's
can
not a bad
never
thing to
force, they can never
ask.
force,
Yeah.
but they can ask.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, if they made a decent thing, because I am concerned, like, if we keep cutting the younger teachers, right, and not replacing the older teachers, given the age structure of teachers, it is going to be a problem. Like, there is no question it will be a problem, right, that's a structural staffing issue, and it will continue to be one, and it's not a good one. Especially when there's cuts going on everywhere, right, so something's gotta give. And my God, how long can you do this? That is a hard job. Anyone's ever tried to be in front of a classroom with a whole bunch of kids, it's a hard job. Doing it for years and years and years, it's wearing, and there's good reasons to have some movement in the classroom, but that's enough said, I'll shut up. I will now send the amended letter to you, Roger.
I will take care of it.
Town administrator updates.
I think it's actually all been mentioned. We are in the process of hiring a new police officer. The next week I'll have the appointment. We'll do the appointment and process through that. We talked about the registrars meeting on Wednesday, and I talked about the town administrator meeting for the budget stuff. So yeah, that's it.
Unanticipated business.
The only thing I can think of to mention, because it's on my agenda, is that we did have that meeting with Roger Trucking. About possibilities to try to bring down the expensive costs of, it is not legal for us to throw away our recyclables into municipal solid waste in the state of Massachusetts, and it's costing a lot to bring them to the MRF in Springfield. And it's not just us, again, regionalization, here we go. But a number of the ideas that some of the people are in, like, you know, one of them does 17 towns, in the Pioneer Valley, and Linda Cernick, is in North County and does, I believe it's North Adams and Adams. I don't know exactly how many other towns are included, but it's a pretty big group. I should know, but I don't know. Anyway, they had a number of ideas for various ways, and for a lot of real reasons, a number of them wouldn't work. Like one was to haul two containers, one from one town, one from another. It turns out logistically that it's actually quite difficult because of the nature of the roads in towns here. Like from a specific standpoint, like they can't park one and put another on it in any of the transfer stations, right? Like something that might not be an issue elsewhere is an issue here. But, and this might be premature to talk about, Roger brought up a site that is right on 102, is trailer accessible, has a scale, was a commercial site and is commercially zoned, and is not currently in, the business that was there is not running anymore. The person still owns the property and some people rent it, but it's really close to the highway, like this could like be a thing. And the idea would be to have 100-yard trailers that they call them a walking floor. I don't, and they're compact as well. That we would haul two of them. We would haul the paper and the mixed recyclables, ideally separating out in class for some reasons, and combine them there, and then that 100-yard trailer would get brought. And you know, this is very early, right? This was the first time this was even discussed, and he was just throwing out this idea, and we all went like, oh. And like off the tip, we had to push him, and I don't want to hold to this figure, but he thought it could trim 25% off the cost of moving the recyclables. So I don't know. It was the most positive outcome of a meeting for one of these things I've been to in a while. So I was sort of strangely excited. But yeah.
Alright, one thing we should talk about is the records request response.
Right. I saw Roger's letter.
Yeah, Roger, Donna didn't say it has to be more specific. Because I know in the past, whenever we've responded to a records request, we had to say, these are the records you're gonna get, these are the ones we don't have or can't give you.
I sent her that, and said this is what I was gonna send her.
Yeah.
I really think there's not very much on there that is really a public records request anyway. So I think that, I sent that letter to her and she said that looks good.
I'm also even wondering whether we have an obligation to respond to an unsigned.
And records requests can be anonymous.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good to know.
so.
You have to use your real name.
And another thing is we haven't entertained anonymous communications in the past, particularly like anonymous complaint or something. But I think it's in our best interest for several reasons to respond to these exact questions.
Oh, I think I absolutely agree.
So I don't.
Whether to them or in general, and to have the answers from
The
them.
anonymity of it is a little bit different here than it may otherwise typically be. I'm trying to remember what day did we receive that?
The 27th, last Friday, the Friday, yeah. Yep.
I think my issue with it was I think I just am offended by the implication that there would be retribution of some kind. I think, I don't know where that comes from, and it makes me feel it's more likely that these are people who would exact retribution than they actually think the people involved, right? I don't think that 911 responders with any integrity at all would choose to not respond to a call because someone had asked a question, and I just think it's such a terrible tone. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Number one, we have the answers to a lot of the questions, and we should be able to answer those questions. I object to the way in which they were asked.
So tone aside, by the way, because we have to, conflict resolution. We have to diffuse the situation, not escalate it.
Correct.
And I honestly think the way that the letter is drafted is maybe legal. I think it heads a little bit more in the direction of division. And I think we need to build a little bit of a bridge, and you can be as transparent as a glass window and people cannot like what they see. But I think that we do have an obligation to provide some of this data, like how many total calls, right? And broken, now we have that.
Yeah, and that's what.
Basically a
That's
record
easy
of
data,
calls.
right?
And that's what I did,
Yeah.
I talked to her, and there are things like data is something that can be requested, that the data lines are, there is things that they're asking for that we do have, but there's also things there that we don't have, like the spreadsheet they ask about.
Yeah, so
There's things that are like
the last-
numbers of stuff.
the
There's
last
a lot of
bullet
things.
under call breakdown is a request of information be gathered, right?
Yeah.
We can decide whether or not we wanna do that. That's not a records request. But if we have a spreadsheet detailing the calls, I actually think that's totally a public record and totally should be
But
responded
that
to.
assumes we have the numbers for calls for other towns, which is.
No,
far as I know.
that-
And I
understood.
was going to respond to that, because it's dated.
I think
Yep.
for two reasons. One is to fulfill the records request as legally obligated and also to promote transparency. We should go line by line and say, yes, we have a spreadsheet on this, we'll send it to you. No, we don't have that data.
He needs in the answering letter, I think,
Well,
not just that we should.
And that
answer
is
it,
my
but when we tell them
experience.
what we're gonna tell them.
That is my experience with public records
Right.
requests. And we haven't fielded, when I got on the board, we got very acquainted with public records requests. And then there was a lawsuit and we got even more acquainted with public records requests. And it's been a couple years, so I'm a little bit out of training, but,
I can go down that list and say in the letter that I responded to what we can and can't,
as a records request, I think that's absolutely obligatory under the records law.
because the copy of the agreement with Otis is none.
Yes, but that is exactly something that's said, right? And that in itself promotes transparency, but you can't just say in 5 days from now, here's your pile of documents. You actually need to say in a records request, any documents that you cannot respond to and why. So that's a request for a specific document, that's a valid records request. And the valid response is, there is no such agreement.
But like, I don't have to answer questions like on the on-call volunteers, why are other fire departments able to find volunteers?
No, that's not a records request.
You know,
But can Sean respond to those himself, just personally, and say,
it's probably.
All day long, all day long.
Good,
Yeah.
someone emailed them,
be
yeah.
good? My personal opinion is answer every question on the email.
So,
That's, and I think
Who cares?
basically, but there's two things going on here. One is there is a legally binding public records request.
Yeah.
And so we need to address that by law, we're compelled to. And secondarily, I agree with Kara, answer as many questions as you can, because it just actually promotes transparency and promotes, how do you expect people
I
to
think
vote
that-
for a proposal that you have without giving
I
them?
just wanna make sure that we're not
Yeah.
opening up the can of worms for other public records requests. Because because somebody says, here's a public records request, what is your opinion on the
Well, that's
Scott?
why, what he's
I don't,
saying, give them what they're requesting that we have, and then Sean send an email because he's not the select board or not
Right.
the legal side of it, well.
I think some.
Respond with all the answers.
I think this is like an agenda for the meeting that, on the 19th or whatever that is, it's an agenda for that.
No, but some of it's not, because some of it, you don't show up to a meeting and say, can you give me that spreadsheet that you have?
But this is all the stuff that they're concerned, the citizens
So,
are concerned.
alright, long story short, I'm not satisfied with the letter.
Okay.
I think that we need to go line by line, and I think this is basically obligatory under public records law. And by the way, if it's gonna take 30 hours to compile it, we'll charge them for 30 hours.
I don't think, but I'm gonna, on the spreadsheet, we're not gonna do a spreadsheet.
If there's an existing one,
There is-
are there existing data?
There is no
That's
spreadsheet, there is no spreadsheet, there is no
There's
spreadsheet.
no.
Doesn't say
Hold on,
there's no
hold on, so hold
Yeah.
on. There's no spreadsheet that says, that has Monterey versus each hill town.
That one
Which,
we've
by the way,
all,
is unspecified.
so that one we've all agreed would involve creating a new document.
Right.
We're
Which we
not
wanna
compelled to do that. Actually, it might not be a terrible exercise,
In
should
fact,
someone have time.
I'm perfectly willing to do it, and in fact, I have to tell you, I wrote to them, because Hilltown, it has no definition.
Okay, so but that one aside, there are plenty of others that I do think there are relevant public documents that it basically
I've already
references.
worked it.
They don't need to say the document name and the,
It's just data.
yes, but do we have a data by year for fiscal year 26 of calls by type?
I would assume so.
Yeah, so then they are entitled to that.
Yes, and I was going to do that.
Yeah,
That's what I was going to do.
but I think we need to go line by line. Does it break down calls by day and night shift?
That I don't.
We have, I
If it
have
does, they're entitled to that.
No, I
Yeah.
can do that too. I was gonna, like the
a
first.
101 for daytime and
the
64 for
first-
nighttime.
If it breaks down mutual aid,
Those came from Sean, by the
The
way.
first three
Yeah.
ones I was gonna do, that's.
copy of agreement with Otis, no such agreement.
Yeah.
Calls broken down by type and
We
made
don't know what
to
type.
Otis.
There is no arrangement. So.
Right.
But our calls made to Otis, that can be included. We were just looking at numbers as percentage of total calls to Otis last week, or a couple weeks ago.
Right.
That should be sent to them. How many
Wait,
calls?
what?
The stuff that Sean gave you.
How many mutual aid calls?
The numbers you
Yeah.
talked
The
about.
well, we weren't looking at Otis specifically, we were looking at total mutual aid calls.
That's what I mean, how many calls is those?
We didn't have a count.
I don't think.
So far.
But by the way, if you can't answer, these basic ones should be answered just so people know what they're voting on.
Right, and what I was gonna say is, I have no problem with, I think it's important that someone, whether it's Sean, or Chris, or me, or whoever, be able to answer to the best of our ability these questions. I'm not counting the spreadsheet of the road miles for the quote, hill towns unspecified. They actually, the fact that I asked for what they wanted for hill towns resulted in an extremely marginally rude answer that basically questioned why I was answering it and who's working, like I can read this to you if you want. This is possibly part of why I was upset. We don't care who provides the data as requested on or before April 10th. But the fact that you are asking, this is dear Ms. Cooper, for clarification begs the question, why are you doing the work for these highly compensated employers who should be able to answer these questions easily? Your hard work is acknowledged, but also begs the question, who works for whom? All the questions we want answers to are clear and concise. They go after the obvious hill towns. And I'm glad it's obvious to them. If the fire department was ever considering regionalization, our New Marlboro, Sandusfield, and Otis are budding neighbors. And the fire department should know all the details and a complete understanding of how these departments operate, as well as what every hill town in South County is doing already. I mean, first of all, the assumption that everyone knows who the hill towns are is absurd.
So it's a terrible tone and.
I know, that doesn't
and
mean I
you
shouldn't
ask-
have the answers.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying, if you're wondering, I thought in good faith, I was like, hey, what exactly would you like to know? Tell me so I can make sure I meet it, and that's the answer I get, which that doesn't mean I won't go ahead and try and get better data than the data I already have, because any questions that they're being asked, if I actually know what the question is, I can guess what they wanna know, but I don't like to do that. I prefer to know what they actually wanna know. I would like, someone else is gonna ask it, and then I should be able to have it, we should all be able to prepare an answer for it. That's not a question, I completely agree with you. I just feel like it's hard to answer their question clearly. They think they're being totally clear, but they're not.
Yeah, so to bring it back, I think we're best off responding with a letter that lays out the specific documents we feel we can provide and are obliged under public records request.
To do so.
And I think that we're better off doing that sooner than later. There are extensions.
Right.
So if it's 10 days, we can totally apply for exemption, and one we'll get. I don't even know if you need, it's been a couple years, I don't know if you need to apply, but,
We'll have this information. It's next, it's effectively.
but I think we should delineate, these are the records requests that we have responsive documents to. And then if there's a clear one that asks for a very clear document, like an agreement with Otis, you say, no, there is no such agreement. When it says, what are you doing to be engaged in the community? That's not even asking for a document.
No.
So that's in a separate
That's
category.
something I'm saying, like Sean should be answering.
Yeah, for
We've been
transparency.
hiring 3 other people all year, we've been busy, it's a
Right.
stressful 3-year plan that's being done. I'm sorry that nobody's been engaged in the community enough, but.
But again, the question is it sufficient for so yes, the individual people that were, why am I answering? My name was on the letter. That's why. Do I have to make that obvious?
Why doesn't Chris have a town email?
Because there wasn't one when it was set up originally, he will have one. We're moving to a different provider. So the original email system wasn't set up properly. And so it has very limitations on the number of licenses that we have. And he was never given an email originally when they had the first Microsoft, it wasn't even Microsoft, it was through GoDaddy. And so we're currently transitioning to Microsoft, and when we go with Microsoft, he'll have his own email as a montereyma.gov.
Okay.
So.
Can you clarify that in your response? Only because it has come off to some people as he doesn't have one so that he can't be contacted. He's actually asked for one many times.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't have a license.
And he's created his own
Right.
for the fire department.
I didn't have a license.
Maybe you can CC his fire department one.
I didn't
in
have,
there.
I didn't have a license to give him.
I mean, and I
Yeah,
think you
no, I get
can,
that.
we can say, it's not, I mean, I don't know if that qualifies as a
No,
spreadsheet, but you could certainly say, the deputy fire chief, doesn't currently have an address because we lack a sufficient number of email licenses to give him one, which
all
we
I'm
hope to rectify in the near future.
Mhm.
Right,
I just mean that's technically a question on her email,
yeah, I know.
to be
Yeah.
answered, every question to be answered.
Questions, answers are good to questions. Public
I
records
hear what
requests
you're
are
saying,
their own animal.
but
We don't need to create, Susan, if you wanna go create a spreadsheet, that's actually probably a good thing, but we're not obliged to create documents. We only have to respond to the existing documents.
Exactly, and the only reason I'm creating it is because I would like to know some of that data. The fact of the matter is, the assumption that our fire department would know the count of calls in other towns is kind of absurd. Pretty absurd. The only way, and plus, the same people, I'm pretty sure, would contest if the numbers came from our fire department, would they trust them? Do they have to be from a unbiased source? I did today, I had gotten a contact at State 911 dispatch from Stephanie at, oh my God, my brain.
From Fairview?
No, Collins Center, sorry, the person who's the current lead, Becca was the lead, but she's away because of she's on parental leave. So Stephanie Lessing stepped up and she had been involved in the collection of the data for the EMS study. And she has a contact at 911 who helped her collect the data for that study. And she shared that with me, so I reached out to the guy at State 911 and asked for the number of calls for calendar year 2025. They asked for a wide date, but since all the other numbers I have are for calendar year, which is a complete 12-month year, that's what I was going with, for the various towns. And actually, I included Egremont because Egremont typically is what we've used for years as the most comparable town. They're not part of that group, but like us, they are also in year 2 of going forward with paid fire department. So it seemed relevant to me to be able to talk about that. So I'll see what I get. And I did ask for them to give me the total calls and ideally to break it out, fire and EMS. It's good to know.
Anything else, any other questions or comments before we adjourn? Alright.
I'm assuming we're meeting next week.
Hey, you're signing the warrant, aren't you?
5:30 or 6.
5:30. that was just a mistake.
Yeah, I know, I think we
I've
thought we'd
got-
have those meetings done by now,
I,
so.
I missed that.
Over the years, how the agenda has been set has fluctuated, and right now we're in the middle of a transition that wasn't exactly planned, but the transition is, it's Friday morning, and I am headed to work and realized I haven't drafted an agenda. So I call Roger and say, can you please do that?
Hopefully Roger remembers.
So there's a couple things in the next year that we can tighten up with procedures and stuff, cause I know in the last couple of years, it's been, I was doing minutes and then I stopped and we kind of had a plan and same thing with agendas, and in hindsight, I wish it had been more of a more planned out and clear transition, and I apologize for when it was not.
Oh my God, you mean you're imperfect? Imagine. I think you did pretty well.
Alright, I'll move that we adjourn.
Second,
We'll vote
yes.
yes, meeting adjourned at 8:14 PM.